What if the most celebrated idea of our time is the one lie that's holding humanity back? It began with good intentions, as most dangerous ideas do. The myth of equality wasn't forged in violence, it was whispered through revolutions, painted in the eyes of utopians, and sung through anthems of progress. But who decided that we were all supposed to be equal? And more importantly, why did we believe them? The Enlightenment, often hailed as the birthplace of modern liberty, also birthed a subtle illusion that humans could be made equal not just under law, but in spirit, ability, and fate. Rousseau wrote of natural man corrupted by society. Locke preached liberty, but only for those deemed rational. Even the American Declaration of Independence declared that all men are created equal, written by a man who owned slaves. The promise was simple: equality would bring peace, prosperity, justice. A world where no one would be born to rule or to suffer, where your fate would be decided not by your blood, your skin, or your mind, but by something called fairness. But was it ever real, or just a brilliant piece of marketing? We built nations around this idea, we started wars to defend it, we restructured economies and rewrote religions. And still, everywhere you look, inequality persists, not just in wealth, but in talent, in beauty, in resilience. What if the myth of equality was never meant to solve inequality, but to conceal it? Equality, the word that launched 1,000 laws, and maybe 1,000 lies, but not all equalities are the same, and some are far more dangerous than others. They say all men are created equal. But what does that really mean? Is it about having the same starting line, or crossing the same finish line? Because there's a world of difference between equality of opportunity and equality of outcome. Equality of opportunity means we all get the same shot. No rigged systems, no locked doors. Equality of outcome? That's something else entirely. It means we all end up in the same place, regardless of effort, ability, or ambition. Sounds fair, until you try it. To force equal outcomes, you must ignore nature. Ignore effort. Ignore difference. You don't elevate the weak. You cripple the strong. But here's the thing. The world was never equal. And if we look back, far back, we'll find something uncomfortable. It was never supposed to be. We like to think inequality is a modern problem. But it's not. It's ancient. And it's everywhere. The first cities were built on hierarchy. Scribes at the top, slaves at the bottom, priests communing with gods, peasants tilling fields. Equality? It wasn't even an idea. Power flowed downward, order was vertical. And rebellion usually ended with heads on spikes. In ancient Greece, the so-called cradle of democracy, only landowning men could vote. Women? Slaves? Foreigners? They weren't equal. They weren't even people in the eyes of the state. Then came the Enlightenment, a thunderstorm of philosophy, rebellion, and revolution. And with it, came the idea that maybe, just maybe, people could be equal. Voltaire, Rousseau, Locke, Jefferson. Brilliant minds, yes. But also deeply flawed men living in deeply unequal worlds. Many wrote about freedom, while profiting from human bondage. They didn't destroy the pyramid. They just renamed the top. We like to imagine the past was marching steadily toward equality. But history doesn't march. It stumbles. And it bleeds. But even deeper than history is nature itself. And nature is not fair. In fact, nature is the ultimate enemy of equality. We didn't invent inequality. We were born from it. From the first breath to the final moment, our lives are shaped by differences far deeper than society. Some of us are born tall, others small. Some with brilliant minds, perfect pitch, iron will. Others, haunted by anxiety, cursed by addiction, tethered to limitations no law can erase. Even identical twins, same DNA, same home, can grow up to live wildly different lives. Why? Because humans aren't carbon copies. We're a cocktail of chaos, chemicals, and circumstance. Let's take it back, way back. Evolution, survival, nature's first and only rule. Adapt or die. Nature never cared about fairness. There are no participation trophies in the wild. The strong survive, the clever escape, the unlucky perish. For millions of years, life wasn't equal, it was competitive. And then, suddenly, we thought we could engineer equality. As if we could overwrite biology with ideology. But here's the cruel truth. If you treat unequal beings as though they are the same, you don't get harmony, you get resentment, you get collapse. And yet, we didn't stop, we doubled down, we took the dream of equality and turned it into a weapon. At first, it was compassion, empathy, a noble urge to lift the fallen and balance the scales. But somewhere along the way, equality became vengeful. Today, the language of equality is used like a bludgeon. Check your privilege. Silence is violence. If you're not with us, you're against justice. The goal is no longer fairness. The goal is submission. And make no mistake, when you question the myth, you become the enemy. They won't argue, they'll accuse. They won't debate, they'll deplatform. Why? Because truth doesn't serve this new religion. Faith does. The myth of equality, once about liberty, is now obsessed with sameness. Same test scores, same wages, same outcomes, even if we have to lie to get them. If one group excels, the system is unfair. If one gender dominates a field, the field is toxic. If one culture thrives, it's privilege. There's no room for nuance, no space for truth. Instead of teaching people to rise, we teach them to blame. Instead of rewarding excellence, we punish it, because it makes others feel less than. But here's the thing, you don't fix a broken bone by pretending everyone's leg is broken. So we bend the truth, rewrite the rules, censor reality. And when that's not enough, we rewrite the past. History used to be a mirror, now, it's a funhouse. Bent, curved, distorted to flatter the new gods of equality. They tell us the founding fathers were racists, the Renaissance was exclusionary. Every empire, every invention, every achievement, tainted by privilege. They don't want to learn from the past, they want to erase it. But here's the danger, when you rewrite the past to suit your ideology, you strip the present of its meaning. You turn legacy into guilt, genius into theft, survival into oppression. We no longer admire greatness, we dissect it. We search for flaws. And when we find them, we cancel the whole story. And in place of flawed heroes, we raise perfect victims. People not remembered for what they built, but for what they endured. It's no longer about celebrating resilience, it's about worshiping grievance. We traded history for propaganda, and in doing so, we lost the most sacred thing a civilization can have. Context. But this lie doesn't stop in the classroom. It's infecting every part of life. It doesn't come with chains or prison walls. This new tyranny wears a smile, it promises inclusion, while quietly demanding obedience. We're told to celebrate diversity, as long as it's the right kind. Diversity of skin? Applauded. Diversity of thought? Dangerous. You're free to speak, but not to disagree. You're free to work, but only if you conform. And the biggest pushers of this myth? Aren't activists, they're corporations. Selling virtue in exchange for silence. They plaster their ads with slogans, they hire by quota, not quality. They kneel for cameras. Then exploit the same people overseas. This isn't justice, it's optics. A hollow performance, where the audience is rewarded. Not for truth, but for applause. But here's the twist. The more we chase equality, the more unequal we become. Because the myth doesn't unite us, it divides, and division is the next chapter. They promised unity, a post-racial, post-gender, post-everything society. What did we get instead? Labels, everywhere. Race, gender, orientation, ability, identity, belief, pronouns, flags. We didn't transcend identity, we multiplied it. We built a world of categories, each demanding special treatment, and now, equality isn't about being human. It's about who can shout the loudest. Victimhood became currency. The more oppressed you are, the more power you claim. We don't fight for justice anymore, we compete for it. This isn't equality, this is resentment politics. And resentment is radioactive. Instead of progress, we get polarization. Instead of peace, suspicion, we now see each other as competitors, not collaborators. Every conversation becomes a landmine. Every difference, a threat. But if division is the fuel, then what's the fire? What keeps this whole myth burning? The answer is simple. Power. If equality keeps leading to division, distortion, and decay, why push it so hard? Why force it? Because for some, chaos is profitable. While we fight each other over microaggressions, the powerful consolidate macro control. The more distracted we are by identity politics, the easier it is to silence dissent. And the best part? They don't need to censor you, you'll censor yourself. Equality is the perfect disguise, wrapped in morality, preached in schools, backed by billionaires. It sounds good. So we stop asking where it leads. Here's the real power move. Promise people justice. Give them dependency. Call it compassion. And they'll never rebel, because once people believe they're fragile, they'll beg for protection. But here's the twist most people never see. When you chase equality at all costs, you don't uplift the weak, you destroy the strong. And that's exactly what happens next. There was a time when greatness inspired us, it lifted us, dared us to be better. But now? It offends. To celebrate brilliance today is to insult mediocrity, so instead, we sand it down, mute it. We call it unfair, unjust, privileged. We've created a world where standing out is dangerous, where being the best makes you a target. This isn't just about trophies and test scores, it's about civilization itself. Every innovation, every leap forward, every renaissance was built on excellence, and now, we're teaching our brightest minds to apologize for existing. Equality myths tell us no one should rise too high, no one should run too fast. So we hobble the strong, not to empower the weak, but to protect the comfortable. We call it kindness, but it's cowardice. We call it fairness, but it's fear of greatness. The myth demands that all be equal, but what it really ensures is that no one can be great. And when the great fall silent, the manipulators take the stage. We were told equality would set us free. But now, you need permission to speak, to joke, to build, even to think. The myth doesn't demand fairness, it demands obedience. You're not free to succeed, you're licensed to participate. So long as you color inside the lines, they call it progress. But it's a padded cell. You won't be hungry. You won't be offended. You won't be challenged. You'll be safe and numb. When you trade excellence for equality, you don't just lose your edge, you lose your freedom. And the scariest part? We didn't lose it in war or dictatorship. We gave it away, smiling. So where does that leave us? In a world that worships equality, but forgets what made us human. It's not sameness, it's choice. And that's where the final chapter begins. Equality. It sounded so noble, so moral. A world without hate, without hierarchy, without pain. But the lie wasn't just sold to us. We wanted to buy it. Because the truth is harder to live with. Real life is unfair. Nature is brutal. People are unequal. In talent, in drive, in destiny. And that's okay. The truth we buried under quotas and slogans is that freedom is not equality, freedom is choice. The right to be better, to fail harder, to stand out, even if it makes others uncomfortable, and that's the real danger of the equality myth. Not that it limits the system, but that it limits you. So here's the choice. Comfortable lies? Or dangerous truths? Because in the end, a life of forced fairness isn't life at all. They told you the world was broken because it wasn't equal. But maybe it was just free, and they couldn't control that. So ask yourself, what are you willing to trade? To feel equal? Think again. Question harder. Bite down on the myth, and let the wisdom tooth pull it out.